Hello and welcome to this month's edition of What's Cooking Rutland. I'm Bethany Yon. I'm a nutritionist at the Vermont Department of Health and part of Rutland's Nutrition Coalition that brings you this show each month. And we are filming for April, so it is safe to say happy spring. Hopefully when we're viewing this, we really have left winter behind us, but we are in spring mode. And so this is the annual freezer challenge, which is truly one of my favorite shows, which means Grace Davy, who is now at the Rutland County Parent-Child Center. You know her from a lot of different things, but we have this little freezer thing going on in terms of what was left in our freezers, because I just got a brochure for purchasing a new share. The season is getting ready, and it won't be that long where, goodness, May will be here and winter farmers market will be done to outside, and it'll be time to start thinking about that freezer needs to get empty, you know, because the new stuff is coming really quickly. So we did some inventory of our freezers, and so we're just going to show you some of the stuff that we had lots of that we're going to then put together this, you know, fun, really a fun menu today. I'm really excited.
I am excited too.
Super excited. So I picked a ridiculous number of pounds of blueberries last August or so. So I still have like tons of bags of blueberries. So I have brought in some blueberries. And then Grace is queen of frozen tomatoes. So, right? So you've got some, what do you have over there for frozen tomatoes?
So these are Sun Golds. I'm just kind of smashing through a sieve. Those are little cherry tomatoes. And then I'm just collecting the juice off. And then I have some frozen whole tomatoes. Usually I roast them, but I ate all of those already. And at this point, these are like, I just had to get things off the vine, tomatoes. So I'll be peeling these frozen guys. And then I brought some little Juliets that are like a little paste tomato. And they're really, really thick. Like when you roast them, there's no water on the pan. They just dry out. So these will be really good, all like a trifecta of tomato-ness in the tomato soup.
In tomato soup. So we're making tomato soup, and Grace also has a bag of onions from her freezer. I've never frozen onions. We will have to talk about that. Remind me to talk about that. So we've got tomato soup that we're going to be making. And so the other ingredients that I brought along is, you know, if you were visited by somebody with their zucchini, you may still have zucchini in your freezer, as do I. So I've got zucchini and lots of corn. So the corn, I actually went to a farm stand later in the season and just picked up a couple dozen ears to process, blanch, and put into the freezer. And it's just so amazing. So these are going to get combined into a corn, zucchini, and cheddar cheese muffin. So that's to go along with our tomato soup. If you're not a muffin person, I also have a freezer overflowing with basil. So we're going to do a new spin on grilled cheese, and we're going to make a grilled cheese pesto sandwich.
Yes.
And because I mentioned blueberries, I haven't talked about blueberries yet in terms of a recipe. I also have a fun little recipe for what's called a blueberry upside down cake. It gets done in a little ramekin. Folks get to eat them individually. I've always just made them with fresh blueberries, and I was curious, wonder how it'll work with frozen. It's beautiful. So we're going to be making these as well. So we need to get muffins into the freezer. So while Grace is continuing to press her Sun Gold, I'm going to throw together, I'm just going to move these blueberries out back, this zucchini cheddar corn muffin. And it's really it's really easy to pull together. And what's nice about it is that you're using a lot of different whole grains, so our favorite things. So instead of using straight up all-purpose flour, I'm going to do a combination of all-purpose and whole wheat flour. So it's going to be a ½ a cup of each, and then some yellow cornmeal. I just have like an old-fashioned stone ground cornmeal. I think it has a little coarser of a texture as opposed to something really fine, but in something like a muffin, that's going to be okay. So we have a ½ a cup of each of the flours. So just mixing the dry ingredients together here. And then a cup of this stone ground yellow cornmeal. Toss that in. And then just some leavening ingredients, so some baking powder and some baking soda, about a tablespoon of powder, a little bit of soda. The soda's going in here because we're working with buttermilk. A little bit of salt, and then my favorite tool for mixing dry ingredients, we're just going to whisk this all together. The dry ingredients get set aside, and we're going to throw together some wet ingredients. So the buttermilk that I talked about. So buttermilk is really, it's a soured milk.
Yeah. And you can use, I've heard like milk with a little bit of lemon juice works just as well. Do you think that's true, or
It does work. It does work. So there are times when I don't have buttermilk, and really, again, it's a soured milk. So I've been known to take regular milk and just add a little bit of lemon juice to it. Sometimes I've thinned yogurt, you know, really getting creative. Or you can buy a powdered buttermilk and then use water instead, and then it all reconstitutes itself. This calls for a little melted butter, so we've got some butter that's still kind of sort of melted, 3 tablespoons, and then 3 tablespoons of oil. And you really, because this is a savory muffin, you can really use any, you know, oil. So a lot of times in baking, I hesitate to use olive oil because it's so flavorful. But because this is a savory muffin with the vegetables, and there's going to be zucchini in here, I'm going to go ahead and throw in canola oil instead, and it calls for 3 tablespoons. This is a 1.5 tablespoon measure, so I'm only going to do 2 glugs.
It sounds
right.
delicious.
Aren't you the glug person?
Yeah, I'm all about the glugs.
I'm having a memory of glugging oil over here in the past.
Glistening glugs of oil.
Yes, exactly. Oh gosh, the whole thing. That's right. 2 large eggs, and we're going to whisk this together. It's super quick.
What would this be good with? A corn zucchini muffin? Like, what would you?
I think it's going to be beautiful with tomato soup. I've also had these to go with chili. So I had company a few weeks ago, and we had turkey chili in the crock pot, and we had these muffins on the side, and it was a different, you know, it was a different spin on having cornbread. So anything that you might do cornbread with, this is going to be a nice alternative.
Yeah.
So again, whoops, I missed a little bit of sugar in here. Good thing I did a quick check. So we're going to add a little bit of sugar to the dry ingredients. Whisk that in. And so then we just have the classic muffin method of dry ingredients in one bowl, wet ingredients get poured in. And it's not, you don't stir a lot because you don't want to overmix things. So just until everything stir until it's just really mixed. And then we're going to add these extras that are just kind of sort of be that fun component, the zucchini. And I don't know, Grace, do you have a moment to squeeze this zucchini?
Yes.
So even if
this
was fresh zucchini is really wet, and this would add way too much moisture. But this not completely thawed zucchini is going to be really, really wet. So if you're baking with frozen zucchini, you really want to squeeze and press it dry. So zucchini job there while I throw together a few more ingredients here.
I've also put salt on zucchini to try to avoid that, to like help draw out the water. And it makes it so salty though, so if you do that, mark your bags.
Yeah, that it would be really,
like
really salty.
A salt bomb. Yeah.
So corn kernels are going into this. And I can just scoop out a good, strong heaping 1/2 cup. And washed fingers, I'm going to go in here. When I take corn off the cob, when I freeze it, you can see sometimes it still comes out in big chunks. So you probably want to have those pieces broken apart, and they're not completely broken apart. So I'm just going to break some of those apart. And then a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. And then these muffins are going to go into a hot oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. They actually don't take that long to cook.
Wow, that's great.
I know, it's really quick. Oh yeah, so look at how soggy that paper towel is. So we're gonna just
It's still pretty frosty.
Is it? I think it'll be okay. Yeah, it should be okay. It is frosty. Woo! We're gonna throw some of this zucchini in. And so that's going to go in, just get folded into the muffins, which because I use some of the whole wheat flour, I'm not as afraid of the extra moisture than if I was using just all-purpose flour, because it will be a little drier. So I just become less worrisome about something being too wet.
Yeah.
If it was straight up all-purpose flour, then it could be a problem and stuff wouldn't rise. But yeah. So I'm going to spoon this into these muffin cups. I forgot my really sweet little muffin scooper at home.
Your what?
I've got these great little scoops that are kind of sort of measured for mini muffins or regular size muffins, and so you scoop out and it's the perfect amount. It's like, thank you, Mom. It was like the best
cool.
Christmas present ever a couple of years ago. Just love it. So what have you got going there? Onions are sautéing.
Yeah, that's the thing with freezer items. They always, get pretty watery. So I'm just kind of cooking. I just put them in oil with a little salt and pepper. And I think I'm gonna add these little roasty guys.
So did you grow a bunch of onions that you were like overwhelmed with onions to then freeze them, as opposed to you don't have a space to store them?
I purposely try to overwhelm myself with onions.
Okay.
I love the Ilsa Craigs. They don't store. They're like, if you tried to cure them, they would rot.
Okay,
Because they're so sweet. And so I just chop them up and freeze them. I'll use them and they keep in my fridge for like a month or so. And I'll just make lots of onion soup and freeze it, and then I'll chop them all up at the end.
Pause. Onion soup, say more.
Like French onion soup.
Ah, okay,
Like just
got
beef
it.
stock, onions wilted down in butter for a really long time with some thyme. So delicious. Yeah, so see how these, like there's no new water coming out of these onions because these tomatoes are so, they're such a great tomato to grow because you can do so many great things with them. This is gonna be so good. I love grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Oh my gosh, serious comfort food. So, it made me feel weird that it's like, why are we doing grilled cheese and tomato in April? But April is a fickle month in Vermont,
Yeah.
So if we end up having one of those April snowstorms and you need some comfort food here, go to your freezer because it's all there ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Alrighty, so into...
That's also smart to buy. I always feel like the corn is much sweeter at the end of the season.
Ah, right. Yeah, the starches have converted more to the sugars. Yeah. So you're chopping these. So you had peeled these before, or did you just peel them now? You just peeled them now.
So there's
so
all
this
the
was
peels.
my trick. So
Yeah.
welcome to my world. So when we've done the fall, putting stuff into our freezer, Grace has roasted and she's done all of that prep,
Yeah.
and I'm the one who's like,
Watch last year's episode.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, roasting is all the
Yeah, and I'm like, just throw them in the freezer. And the skins do come off really nicely. Yours look really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew a lot of tomatoes this past year.
Yeah, I just have one bag left. That's it. And really, making tomato soup is my favorite thing because, these are real tomatoes, and even though they're looking weird, being all, being frozen and such, they just taste so good.
Yeah.
So, when we get to grilled cheese, I also purchased a fresh tomato from the store, and, it looks pretty, but it's just not going to taste
I almost peeled that one. I was like...
Yeah, I mean, it looks lovely, but it's just not going to taste like a real tomato.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah,
this
that
is your
smells really
onions
good.
and your sun gold. Did
Yes,
you have
and
any oil or anything in here, or was it just
I threw just a little bit of oil and some salt and pepper.
Okay.
And then I think these will just cook down. I should have squeezed that zucchini over top of this.
Yeah, that would have worked. There's still a little zucchini left if you want to throw.
Oh,
we
sure.
can throw some in.
Yeah, if it's left. Let's use it.
Yep. And just shake out the paper towel right into there. So add zucchini, which is one of my tricks for tomato sauce, is just adding zucchini to tomato sauce. Shredded zucchini, just another way to get more veggies in. All right, I'm going to clear a few things, and then as you're stirring soup, what else is this now? Everything's in here?
Not the sun golds.
When will the sun golds
Let's
go in?
throw them in. Let's throw them in. They've
So
had
excited.
their
I
moment.
love tomato soup.
So I'm going to do one more push on it.
Okay.
See if anything. The trick too, if you're doing this at home, is to make sure the bowl doesn't sit in the water, because then
Oh yeah, you defeat the
you're
purpose.
so.
Do you have a different tool that you might use at home, or is it just working with a fine sieve and that does the trick?
Yeah, this is pretty much what I do at home, but I'll do it for a lot longer. So I'll like do some dishes and come back, squeeze it down, go vacuum the room, squeeze it, you know.
Got it.
That's why it's like slow food, is because.
Yes, but we're not allowing it to be slow food, and when we have a 30-minute window to play. But it's fine. It's going into soup. So
It still looks great,
it's going to be
doesn't
great.
it?
So this is just the
Sun-Gold
juice. And what are you going to do with those Sun-Golds that are left?
You mean at my house?
Yeah, just in general.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, you're not throwing them away, right?
I threw the skins away.
The skins away, yeah.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I just kind of throw them in whatever. I do like a lot of casseroles. I have like a big dish.
Okay.
That I can cook on the stovetop, then I throw it in the oven. So I do a lot of like Sun-Gold gravy with chicken, and then like throw some millet in and like bake it.
Nice.
That's really good.
See, this is why I have Grace. Real creative chef, just makes all of this wonderful stuff. So surround myself with folks who really know what they're doing. I feel like I just kind of sort of pretend.
Let's talk about your pesto hack, because I think that's a brilliant.
I know, my pesto hack. So yeah, I grow basil, but before we do that, up on the screen rather, WIC Freezer 19, that's your WIC code. So watching and being a part of our show virtually from home is a second nutrition education activity. So call your local WIC office with that code. Did you have anything in your freezer? Are you trying anything new or learning something new for next season? And that's going to keep foods going for the next 3 months. So yeah, the WIC code. So yeah, my basil hack, so to say, or my pesto hack, is that I don't put the cheese in when I freeze it. So it just takes up a whole lot less space, and it freezes really well. And then once I've thawed that pesto, then I add cheese either to it, depending on what it's going into, or if it's going into a mixed dish, then all a part of it. And so grilled cheese, there's already cheese happening, so who needs it? So we're going to let this sit. Grace is playing with tomatoes for grilled cheese, and I'm going to throw together these little blueberry cakes, which are super easy. Little bowl.
Yeah, they look like just a few ingredients.
Yeah, just really a few ingredients. This is a recipe that I've been playing with for a long time. Again, I've always just worked with fresh blueberries, but it's like I need to do something with all these frozen blueberries that I have. So what am I going to do? And I have semi-solid butter. Melted the butter, cooled a little bit, but I'm just gonna play with it, leave it as is. So these are called upside down berry cakes, blueberry cakes, and they get cooked off in ramekins. And so the recipe calls for like a 10-ounce ramekin, so that would be a good sized ramekin dish. But you could also do it in something smaller if you wanted to. You're just going to then make more servings. This particular recipe is going to end up with 2 servings. So you could make more. Or Grace and I were chatting that for kids, it could be really fun to line a muffin tin and actually make them off and bake them in muffin tins, you know, just dividing up the batter, however you're going to do that. So super simple. We're just going to add some in a really, again, little bowl, so not making a ton. We're going to add a little bit of flour, sugar, and baking powder. And again, because I love whole grains, I'm going to mix it up with the whole grains. And so I'm going to do just 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I actually have a nice 2-tablespoon measure at home that I just love.
What? Really?
I know, isn't that crazy? I have no idea how I came upon it, but it's just totally my favorite. 2 tablespoons of all-purpose. 2 tablespoons of white wheat, I think because this is a little cakier. Whole wheat might make it really dry, but again, because I'm working with frozen blueberries, there's going to be some extra fluid there that's going to help to have them work. And then we have, looking for my a quarter of a cup of sugar. You don't need to use a whole quarter of a cup because we're talking blueberries, which are pretty sweet to begin with. Half a teaspoon of powder and a little bit of salt. Just going to take a dash. Just going to grab a spoon to stir this together. So we just have our dry ingredients in a little bowl. And then to this, we're going to add a quarter of a cup of milk, skim milk, and then my soft butter. It's not completely melted, but I think it's going to stir in just fine. And I think because my liquid measuring cup is a mess, we're just going to go this route. So this is it. This is the little cake base. It gets stirred together and then divided between the two ramekins. Blueberries get put on top and it gets baked for about a half hour until the blueberries are nice and bubbly and the cake is golden. So, you know, and it doesn't require a lot of equipment, which is really, really nice. So I'm just going to divide it between these two ramekins.
That looks so nice.
Doesn't it?
And you don't need to butter the ramekins or anything?
Sometimes I do. I did this time. Sometimes I forget. I didn't do a very good job of dividing evenly, so I'm going to have to steal from one side here. Just gonna move a scoop over. It's pretty even. And then just top them each with a good half a cup of blueberries. I'm just going to rinse the corn juices off of this. And again, because this is whole wheat, while I don't want to grab all of the juices that might be forming at the bottom of my bag, because I've worked with whole wheat flour, it is going to be a little drier, so it's going to tolerate that extra fluid, whereas sometimes things aren't going to tolerate. So we were having that conversation with the muffins as well.
They look so perfect.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah,
and
just
then
like fresh berries.
Yeah, they do. They look really, really good. And then the cake is just going to bake up around these blueberries. So boom. So I'm going to toss these into the oven and check on those muffins, which might be just about done. And
Yeah, they smell good too.
they do smell good.
This guy's bubbling away.
Ooh, they're getting there. Just going to toss these in underneath.
Yeah, you're right about
Yep, I
those
need just
whole
a couple
frozen
minutes.
tomatoes.
What's that?
Just the way they cook down is really nice.
Yeah.
Like with the other, I feel like all three of these together pair well, or are a good trifecta of delicious.
So, grilled cheese, like serious comfort food in my world. Oh my gosh, like yeah, just grilled cheese and tomatoes just makes me such a happy camper.
classic.
It is. So what do we have here for grilled cheese? So I really love, we both brought the same bread.
Yeah, we did.
Which is really kind of fun. So
yeah, it is.
yeah,
7 grain.
panciata, the multi-grain, right, the multi-grain.
And 7 grain.
And the 7 grain bread.
Which is
So,
multi-grain.
Yeah, so grilled cheese is grilled cheese and you can kind of sort of do whatever you want with it. Our spin here is that we're going to put some pesto on the bread, right?
Yes, and tomato, and then I got this really nice Grafton cheese as a little treat. Since I
Fun.
saved money on the tomatoes, I thought, why not treat myself?
Treat myself to some fun cheese. So what are your tricks for buttering bread for grilled cheese?
Well, I usually keep my bread in the freezer at home because I can't eat through a whole loaf that quickly.
Same, mine's in the
So
fridge.
I usually melt butter in a pan. But when I was growing up, we always had margarine and we'd butter our bread with the margarine.
Right.
So I'm open to both ways. What do you usually do?
I usually make a mess with a soft stick of butter kind of thing, and it just is a ridiculous mess.
Yeah, I don't keep my butter out at home either, so it's always, and I don't have a microwave, so it's always
Oh
like.
gosh, and so this has been out, and that's way more butter. But
Yeah, that looks great.
So we're gonna so there's one side buttered, and we'll get to the other side. Eee! Lots of butter. Donna Hunt, I hope you're not watching. But butter is still way better than olive oil. A lot of times because I have butter in my griddle, then I'll oftentimes just butter one side because I know that it's going to get doused in butter on the other side. So we're just going to toss this over and then...
Yeah, when I butter my pan for my bread that's half thawed, I'll do put a piece of butter on top before I flip it, and that way there's butter under it when I'm cooking it.
So we're going to just take some of this pesto. Oh my gosh. So this is really kind of fun. So I don't know if any of my colleagues are watching, but we have some of our colleagues in the Middlebury building are just known for doing grilled cheese Fridays.
Oh, really?
And so we
Wow,
all
that's great.
sign up for different ingredients. and bring them in and set up this fabulous grilled cheese buffet. So your choice of whatever breads you want. Pesto has shown up in the past. Whatever cheeses you want, tomatoes, all kinds of different things. So we're going to throw this here. Toss in.
Yeah, I didn't do the circles. I realized that.
That's okay. We'll make a nice mess. The soup is smelling really, really fabulous.
Let me stir that.
And did we turn on the skillet yet?
No, good call.
That's okay, it heats pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this lid off and let it cook down.
There we go. I'm just gonna turn it to medium high to just get it started. Put a little bit of butter in the pan. That way we'll know it's ready to go. You're giving that a stir. Check these muffins while that heats. Ooh, they just need like 1 more minute and they're gonna be done. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it smells great in here.
I know, it smells really, really good in here. So what's nice about an electric skillet for something like grilled cheese is you just have a more even temperature surface, or if you have a panini press or even any kind of skillet area that you use for, you know,
like
pancakes, a griddle, thank you, the word was escaping me. Otherwise, I just find monitoring the temperature on a stovetop can just be really challenging. At least I find it challenging at home. And I don't know, are you like master of?
I feel like the stove I have at home, I have like a burner. It's kind of like an easy bake oven. It goes off and on like all the time.
Okay, yeah.
And it just drives me crazy. So I don't even know
what it goes. So this grilled cheese, here we go. Carrying it over, just gonna stick it right in the middle and let that go for a couple of minutes until we start to see some cheese melting, and then turn it over. And this is talking to us here.
Those muffins smell really good.
Ooh, these look fabulous. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful color. So tomato soup alongside these corn, and even with that wet zucchini, they firmed up, and the whole grain, they firmed up really nicely. So they're bouncing back without sticking my finger right into it. And so I'm gonna keep those there, and then pull forward while we monitor that grilled cheese. So here are the 2 blueberry cakes that I had done earlier. So these I did in a smaller container, so divided the recipe, but you can see, you know, the blueberries, that the cake has come up right around it and is nice and brown on the edges. Super, super yummy.
Yeah,
and now we just have grilled cheese here.
Time to flip it.
Time to flip it. Yep, I see cheese melting. Ooh, falling apart a little bit. That's okay.
One little sauteed tomato.
So you brought some Greek yogurt. What's the Greek yogurt for?
I was going to put it into the soup once I cool it down a bit more, as a little cream of tomato soup, since we're getting luxurious.
We are, very luxurious meal here. So I see that we are just about out of time here, Grace. Can you believe it?
I know.
I know,
It's
just
flown
crazy.
by.
So we're going to let that grilled cheese keep grilling just a little bit longer. So if you have all of these various ingredients in your freezer, it is time to put them to use, because before you know it, you're going to want to be putting something else in your freezer, and you don't want anything lost from the 2018 season in there. So hopefully we've given you some great ideas of things to do. This tomato soup, muffins or grilled cheese, blueberries, lots of great things. So thanks for joining us. I'm super excited to dive in here, and we'll see you next month. And
yeah, it's always fun cooking with you, Bethany.
So much fun.